either one of these any good?
Wow, this is a good movie.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, well, the director from yesterday doesn't think so.
It stinks.
You sorry? You waste our film.
It's so bad.
Don't look now, but we've officially entered late summer territory into August. No, we've got a few new flicks on the big screen and for streaming to check out this week. This is the Screening Room Podcast. Welcome. She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we're from madwolf.com, and let's start out on the big screen with the latest from M. Night Shyamalan. And this is a father and his teen daughter attending a pop concert, only to realize they've entered the center of a dark and sinister event. It's called Trap.
You know the butcher? The freaking nut job that goes around just chopping people up? Well, the feds or whatever heard that he's gonna be here today, so they set up a trap for him. This whole concert, it's a trap. They're watching all the exits, checking everyone that leaves. There's no way to get out of here.
I see them.
Somebody help me!
Dad. 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 Dad.
I'm sorry, Riley, what was that?
Your daughter's never gonna forget this day.
It's kind of dope, right?
Yes, M. Night is back, and oftentimes he's the victim of his own success in the past because he's kind of known. Now, you say that name, and everybody automatically thinks, ooh, big twist ending.
Right.
Well, not always.
No.
And, of course, he's had success with that twist ending, the big shockers. And other times he's gone away from it, and the movies have ranged from very good to not good at all. And this one, I think, as you said right away in your written review, it just falls in the middle of the pack.
Yeah. It's an interesting premise, and I think that, as is often the case in his films, the question is, can he write himself out of it or not?
Yeah.
He gives you a really fascinating premise, and it's like, how is he going to get us out of this? And you know, about half the time, I mean, when you look at something like Unbreakable or, you know, even The Visit, the grandparent horror movie, I love that movie. You know, he gets you out of it in a fascinating way. And then there are other ones where it just is a failure. And for me, this one is a failure.
Yeah, this one is, it has its pluses. It does have some positive things, and we'll get to those. It stars Josh Hartnett, and he's one of the pluses.
He is, absolutely.
He's actually very good in this.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a father and is taking his daughter, and she's good too. The girl that plays his daughter, and her name is Ariel Donahue, also very good. So they're going to the pop concert of the latest big pop diva, like a Taylor Swift type.
Right, sure.
And this one, actually, her name is, in the movie, her name is Lady Raven, and she's played by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, Salika, who, I guess, she wrote and performed all of these pop songs.
Yep. And she's done a lot of music for several of his other films.
Yeah, so she's the pop star that's putting on this concert, and it is, as you see in the trailers, I mean, we're not spoiling anything by saying that he's a serial killer.
Right.
I mean, that's out there already, and they have found out, we're not going to say how, they have found out that this killer, the butcher, that the cops have been looking for, and the feds, he's going to be at that concert. They're almost positive. So basically, they're going to have the show, and they're going to increase security and have that be a trap for him and get him. And to help out, they've got a big-time profiler there, played by Haley Mills.
I know.
What?
Okay.
And the funny thing is about that, it takes a long, long time before they show her face.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. They show the character talking about things that she's looking for in people of a certain age in the crowd, but they're always showing like the back of her or something, and it takes a while before, you know, they actually show her. But yeah, that's Haley Mills. Nice to see her. Okay, so that's the setup, and it isn't long before Josh, the killer, sniffs it out.
Cooper.
Yeah, he sniffs it out, the fact that there's a big security presence there and what's going on, and he makes friends with some employees there in the building, and he finds out some information. But it's just the start of a series of really convenient plot points that add up, that really add to the problem of this whole concert, the whole sequence, just not being authentic at all.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem when you come up with this premise is for us to is that you've got to convince us that it's true. Otherwise, there's no tension to it. You know, and so you've got to come up with some interesting and realistic ways for him to figure out what's going on while he's at this concert and what might he do to try to get out. And the thing is, it's tremendously lazy writing. We're like, oh, conveniently, this happens to be here, and this person has this information, and this person's not paying attention. And if you've ever been to a concert and hoped you would be the person that they pull up on stage to dance with, well, you know what you should know is it's not as hard to get that to happen as you might have thought.
Well, even even little things like when his daughter goes up to get a T-shirt and there's only one left of her size, and she kind of gets into a tiny little argument where the girl next to her says, "No, I was here first." And then that's not authentic at all either. And then after the girl next to her has her one line of dialogue, she just stands there like a mannequin.
Yeah.
Nothing is going on in the background that looks authentic at all.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, the nothing about the concert feels, you know, and a lot of times we will pick nits about things like, oh, it's radio, only it's nothing like it is in radio. The thing is, though, that this is the majority of the film, is that you are at a massive pop concert that's mainly 13-year-old girls. And so we have to buy into that for any part of the tension to actually develop, and you just don't.
You don't.
It's like sitcom level authenticity. And then the other problem really is that while the two leads are quite good, Selika Shyamalan is just not. For most of the concert, she's like a presence on stage, and she doesn't have a stage presence. She does not come off as somebody who, you know, a Taylor Swift or a Beyonce, or I mean, I'm just saying names that I would know. I don't know pop stars, so I don't know. Maybe the songs might actually. They seemed like legitimate pop songs to me.
They did. They
but
seemed
she
like
has
legitimate
no
pop
stage
songs.
presence.
She doesn't.
What's worse is she becomes like a third lead in the film, and she really struggles.
Yeah, she does
as an actor.
It's a weak point. I agree. Yeah, the songs sound, you know, popish enough.
Yeah,
or
they
it's
seem
not
fine.
our type.
No,
we're
we
not the
wouldn't
audience
know.
for that.
Nope.
But they sound like
We have not been 13-year-old girls for a very long time.
They're acceptable pop songs, is what I'm saying. That's what they sound like. But everything else, you're right. Everything else about the show and how he uncovers what he uncovers, it's so convenient.
Yeah.
And nothing about it feels authentic.
No.
But I think we both agree, once they get out of the arena and the concert and the chase continues, I thought it got a little more interesting. Then he ends up hooking back up with his family. His wife is played by Allison Pill.
Yeah.
She's always good to see.
And she's very good in it.
Yeah. And don't look for a big M. Night twist. There isn't one. There's a slight twist. Nothing major, but there's a slight twist to the story that kicks in. And that's when my interest perked up a little bit. But still, there's another big plot point, and you know what I'm talking about, the limo. That was very convenient. Oh, you just tell us that's what happened? Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is it's very lazy and very convenient.
It's lazily written.
And it's one that does start out with a pretty interesting premise,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, just getting out of it. And then the very, very end with the bicycle.
Yeah. No. I mean,
it was disappointing. It was disappointing. It was disappointing. But
I mean, you know, Josh Hartnett really is quite good in it. You know,
He
he's very good in it. There's a lot of excellent camera work with him as well. There's a lot of like extreme close-ups of his face where you can sort of watch the machinations go on in his brain, and that's very interesting. And there are other times where they shoot him so that you're like, damn, he's really, really tall. I never realized how tall Josh Hartnett was, when you need to believe that he simultaneously comes off as Joe Good Guy, completely bland dad, nothing to worry about here, and also intimidating enough that he could do some damage.
Yeah,
and
he is good.
He is good, and
then also there's a couple of strangely funny side characters. There's a mom of one of his daughter's friends or frenemies that he runs into at the show.
She's great.
She's very nosy and just won't leave him alone. And she's played by Marnie McPhail.
From here in Columbus, Ohio.
And then another Ohioan, Kid Cudi.
Yeah. He's hilarious.
He's hilarious. He plays like the supporting act, or another singer that Lady Raven, the pop star, is crediting for her big success. And she gives him like a shot on stage or whatever. He's very funny too.
He is funny, yeah.
With his interaction with them. So there's a couple of strangely funny bits, but all in all, I agree with you. It's lazily written and a disappointment as far as like we said before, his body of work, it's pretty much in the middle. I mean, it's not The Happening,
No.
but it's not
It's not good.
Yeah, it's not near the top either. So that was disappointing because regardless of it all, I still look forward to his stuff.
Yeah.
I do, because some of his movies I've liked very, very much. And that is Trap, out now in the theaters. Let's stay in the theaters for an action adventure for the family, comedy. Inside of his book, adventurous Harold can make anything come to life simply by drawing it. After he grows up and draws himself off the book's pages and into the physical world, Harold finds he has a lot to learn about real life. It's Harold and the Purple Crayon.
When someone tells a story, they create an entire world. And usually, the characters stay there. But there are legends of characters so real
With the crayon, anything is possible.
that they step right into this world.
Let's see how this baby works in the real world.
Do you know what brought you to life? It's what your crayon is made of. The most mysterious, powerful, extraordinary stuff on earth. Wax. Pure imagination.
I remember this book
I
as a
love
kid.
this book.
Yes, it's a fun book.
It
So
is.
now it's on the big screen where they're bringing everything into the real world, and Harold is all grown up, and he's played by Zachary Levi. This is directed by Carlos Saldana, who's been involved in a lot of animated films, the Ice Age franchise,
Rio.
and the Rio
Mhm,
franchise. So this one is, I guess you'd call it a little bit animated,
Right.
but mainly mainly 3D.
And a couple of his mates back in Imagination, inside the pages of his book, they come along as well, and they turn into real people, and they're very fun as well. Lil Rel Howery is one of them, and it's fun to watch them sort of figure out, because not only are they now like 3-dimensional,
Yeah.
they're also no longer a porcupine. So that's fun. I mean, there's fun to be had here, and it's one of those films that is a celebration of creativity.
Yeah.
Also, the wildly welcome in any circumstance, Jermaine Clement plays the villain.
And the narrator is Alfred Molina.
Oh, yeah.
And Zooey Deschanel
Yep.
pops up as well. So, yeah, some likable stuff here, and it is a fun story for the family. We should say Rachel Willis reviewed this for us at madwolf.com. And, yeah, she thought the same thing. It's certainly not a Toy Story.
No.
It's not one of the best Pixar. I mean, this is not a Pixar, don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is it's not one of those all-time family films, but it's fine.
It's
and
fine.
It has,
It's nice.
and a good message that is worth repeating about creativity and investing in it. And, yeah, you get to see Jermaine Clement chew some scenery as a villain, and that's fun.
It's always fun.
And Zachary Levi, he's a likable hero.
Very.
So, yeah, Harold and the Purple Crayon, that is out for the family in theaters this weekend, and you can check out Rachel's full review at madwolf.com. Next up is a film that is in theaters, in select theaters now, hopefully getting more and more widespread because everybody needs to see this film, one of the best of the year. Divine G, imprisoned at Sing Sing for a crime he didn't commit, finds purpose by acting in a theater group alongside other incarcerated men in this story of resilience, humanity, and the transformative power of art. It's called Sing Sing.
We here to become human again and enjoy the things that is not in our reality.
I think you guys are becoming real with each other, vulnerable.
Listen, I already know what you're doing, know who you are, what you about, bro. What? You don't get to tell me what I need in prison. You don't get to do that. And don't bring me in those dark corners no more.
The world expects brothers like you and I to walk in with our heads held down. Nah, what you gotta walk in like a king. Everything is yours.
I'm divine now.
Yeah.
This is my theater.
Now give him some love, give him some love.
Go to your most perfect spot.
You gotta admit that I murdered that Hamlet scene, bro. Shakespeare is in his grave right now. He rolled over.
You did your thing, beloved.
My God, this movie's good.
It's such a beautiful, beautiful movie. And it's led by, surprise, another Oscar-worthy performance by Coleman Domingo. But he's not the only one. And this movie has a very fascinating backstory. It was the director is Greg Quidar, and the writers John Richardson, Brent Buell, and Clint Bentley. It's based on about a 20-year-old Esquire magazine article about the Rehabilitation Through Art program, RTA program, at Sing Sing Maximum Security Prison. And they use a little bit of fiction with a little bit of fact. Coleman Domingo plays John, otherwise known as Divine G, and he's the one imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit, and he's been working through the peaks and valleys of trying to apply for clemency and the ways that he thinks will improve his chances of getting parole. And while he's done that over the years, he's thrown himself into this acting troupe. And they put on plays with the inmates. And their drama teacher, I guess, their mentor, is played by Paul Raci, who was a Oscar nominee for Sound of Metal. So good. And they use these inmates, and one of the new inmates to the program goes by his name's Clarence Macklin, and he goes by the name of Divine Eye. And Clarence Macklin plays himself.
Yeah. Because
this movie, aside from Coleman Domingo and a few others, it uses real veterans of this actual program at Sing Sing.
Yeah.
And Clarence Macklin is one of them. And he is tremendous.
He's so good. He's so good.
His relationship with Coleman Domingo as the two characters is just, they're great together, because Clarence's character, he comes in, he's got all his violent defenses up. He has not let go of his anger. He has not accepted what this program can do for him. And Coleman Domingo's character, keeps at him to try to, accept it, feel human again. And that's the beauty of this film. It shows you on the surface, of course, the message is how important art is just to ourselves as human beings.
Right.
But then underneath it is this beautiful story of these men with, let's say, obviously troubled lives and some bad things in their past, feeling like human beings again, learning to express their emotions. And the key word in this program is rehabilitation.
Yeah.
To be put back out into the world and be functioning and contributing members of society. And here's a way that they can actually find success in doing that.
Yeah. It's just beautifully made.
It is.
You root for them with each play, and just the interactions among the actors, most of them not professional actors. It's just stunning.
It really is. This is one that just deserves to be seen by as many people as possible. Fully expect Oscar nominations to come out of this.
Yeah.
And hopefully, Clarence Macklin, obviously not a trained actor in any way, but has shown he comes through. He has such a presence.
He does.
And he's acting alongside a great.
Yeah.
And just kills it.
Yeah. Toe to toe. Absolutely toe to toe.
They're so great together. And the other side, supporting characters that also were actual inmates, they're fine as well. The entire ensemble is great. And
it's wonderful.
It pulls you into this program, and you're it's also heartbreaking at times. There's a scene with Coleman Domingo and his parole board. Oh, it's just it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Just in one, I think actually it might be in the trailer.
But that's not the only one.
It's not the only
there are
one,
two or three moments where you'll just weep.
But there are also very, very hopeful moments.
Yes.
And obviously, as you can tell from the fact that Clarence is out and acting, and there are successes here.
Yeah.
There are successes to celebrate, and this movie certainly does it, and we cannot recommend it enough. It may be getting a limited release right now, but hopefully it's out to a wider audience, and then, of course, in the future, streaming. But boy, I hope as many people see this as possible, and it is called Sing Sing, one of the best of the year, out now. Well, let's go to another movie that has people playing themselves. When fate brings Belfast teacher JJ into the orbit of self-confessed low-life scum Noyce and Liam Ogue, the needle drops on a hip-hop act like no other. Rapping in their native Irish, they lead a movement to save their mother tongue. This is called Kneecap.
Nice little delivery. Hey! No more music.
Every day I am not captured is a psychological victory against the occupiers.
Kneecap, so-called Irish language rappers promoting antisocial behaviour and violence.
Stay voice of Tugov. Enough time, it's just useless.
I never want to see you again.
I never want to see you again.
Well, look who it is. Bone thugs and no harmony.
But those hoods have to say this city doesn't need to be hearing. He's here asserting his right to speak Irish.
A Belfast band has been criticised for chanting anti-British slogans.
Why don't you just speak the Queen's English? Oh, come on, let's go. Men kan jo sier the fucking kringle Dr. Drainer again.
Damn, this movie's fun. I had so much fun with this movie.
It's so funny. These both come out the same week because this one has people playing themselves.
Yes, and both films are, I mean, they're about sort of the power of art. And it's just the funniest thing because this is a real rap group called Kneecap. They really do rap in Irish.
And they are called Kneecap because?
Because they're from the north of Ireland. And one of the things that the IRA was known for doing was shooting people in the kneecap.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they took that name. And it's a highly fictionalized, I don't know, I can't tell you exactly which moments are fictional, but I doubt one of their dads was an IRA bomber who went on the lam. But in this movie, it is, and he's played by Michael Fassbender, who's wonderful. But so it is. It's the origin story of this hip hop group, and it's a funny story. It's just bold and audacious. And they spring to life. You know, there are activists who are trying to make Irish an officially acknowledged language in Northern Ireland. And then there's the existing establishment who says, no, you're going to speak the Queen's English. But what it comes down to is neither faction wants anything to do with this band. You know, they don't at all. And yet it's because of this band and it's like rising popularity among young people that people start to learn the language again. And so inadvertently they become sort of cult heroes. And this movie is so well written in the way that it layers the Irish history of rebellion and rebellion through music.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the way that it just flips the bird to conventional, anything that's traditional, anything that's, sort of appropriate. It's a very R-rated movie. Very, very. A lot of R-rated nonsense. And it's also really well executed. There's a lot of sort of squiggles on the screen. There are some words that are written, and most of it, a lot of it, is subtitled because a lot of it is in Irish, which is fun.
Sure, and this is the co-writer and director is Rich Pepiat, and then a couple of the band members get writing credits, Mogai Bap and Mo Chara, and then the other band member is DJ Provi. I probably mispronounced a lot of those names because they're Irish or Gaelic, and I'm not pronouncing them right. But give the guys credit because they are the actual band members, and they're obviously heavily involved in putting this movie together.
And the other thing that's really interesting is that you don't think they definitely feel like actors to me. I mean, they do a quite good job of acting.
Yeah, just like the guys in Sing Sing. Yeah, it's amazing.
Especially JJ, who plays like a middle school music teacher who doesn't mean to get involved in this band, and that's why he wears like a ski mask because he doesn't want anybody to know because he doesn't get fired.
Right.
I would have assumed that guy was just a veteran actor that they cast as this middle-aged man who joined the band. But it's so much fun. This movie is so much fun, and at the same time, it's incredibly well put together, not only as like a tip of the hat to the Irish, but to the power of language and the need for language to tell your own story, which makes it quite universal. And they go out of their way. You're going to see a Palestinian flag hanging in somebody's house. They talk a lot about how hip hop in the United States was a way for people who weren't being listened to make themselves be listened to, and how irreverent that was. It's incredibly well made and super fun.
Yeah, very much so. And this is another one that hopefully gets as many eyeballs as humanly possible.
For sure.
Hopefully on the big screen, because we always like the big screen, but maybe if in the future then streaming gets it to more people, this is one just like Sing Sing that you need to see and experience. And this is out in select theaters starting this weekend, and it's called Kneecap. We'll move to Prime Video for a drama horror mystery, a modern reimagining of the infamous Dr. Jekyll from Robert Louis Stevenson's 1886 novella, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This is just called Dr. Jekyll.
Nina Jekyll is excellence incarnate. She demands the same from others.
What we're looking for is someone who could help about the house.
It's a live-in position. You would live here with Nina.
You like my chessboard? Do you play?
I hear you're all alone up there. What? You're working for Nina Jekyll in that place outside of town.
I have a daughter. To see her, I need this job.
I have a little plan for you of my own.
There are cameras in almost every room.
2 steps ahead. That is the secret.
You forgot Nina's meds.
Whoa, she's a bit crazy, isn't she? Help me, she's coming, she's coming. She's coming!
This is Hammer horror, always up for that. And, you know, Hammer have made quite a number of horror films over the last decade or so, but none of them really seem Hammer-esque. You know, some of them have been great. The Lodge is great. But this one opens in a very, you know, it's Dr. Jekyll, you know? It's the big goth mansion. And so I was excited about that. And I was more excited because Eddie Izzard plays the lead. And Dr. Nina Jekyll. And she, you know, she's a recluse. And she just works with her assistant, who is played by the always welcome and prim Lindsay Duncan.
Oh, she's great.
And Lindsay Duncan is interviewing for live-in care to help Nina because she has an injury. And they land on this just doofus ex-con who, Lindsay Duncan's character, doesn't even know how he didn't get vetted, how he even managed to have this interview. But Dr. Jekyll just finds him sort of endearing and hires him anyway. You can't blame a film for not being the film you hoped it would be, because there's absolutely no reason that a filmmaker is making that film. They're making the film they wanted it to be. I have to admit that when I saw that Eddie Izzard was playing this, I was and was playing both characters as a woman, I really hoped that it would be a reimagining of the tale as you know, as a trans tale. I wanted it to really address I bet somebody could do something brilliant with that.
Mm-hmm. But that's not this movie.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very convoluted and confusing because they're not clear as to. There are a couple times where people say living in a world full of men or living a man's world, but then there are other times where they flash back and it's clear that Nina Jekyll is a biological female, has always been. So they actually make it more confusing and cumbersome than it needs to be, which is unfortunate. Eddie Izzard is great. Just a charming delight, wicked and sly and funny. And the only reason to watch this movie, because it is so badly written. You know, that actually it's a little offensive that Stevenson gets a writing credit because they do throw the original story completely out the door, you know, which is sort of okay because you know the story, right? I mean, you don't need to be, it doesn't have to be rehashed. You get it.
Right.
But the truth is that the story that they replace it with, they don't clarify well enough for you to get it. And then there's a side story about Bob, the caregiver, which is just so full of holes. The whole thing is so full of holes that it doesn't hang together in any way. And Scott Chambers, who plays Bob, he does well enough as the doofus caregiver, although you can tell from his side story that he has a dark and dangerous past, and you're like, not for 1 second. Not for 1 second do I believe that, unless he was lobotomized and this is all we have left is this goofy puppy.
Right.
So, but because of that, there's an arc that is just laughable. And I mean, there's nothing menacing, there's nothing scary, there's nothing clearly drawn. It's an incredible waste of a great performance from Eddie Izzard.
You know, and it goes back to what we were saying a lot about Trap. I mean, the script can tell us certain things, but if we don't feel it by what we see, what we see on screen, it just sits there.
Yeah,
it's not going to do anything for it. So that's unfortunate because I agree with you about Eddie Izzard. So this is disappointing for sure, and this is called Dr. Jekyll. It's on Prime Video now. Let's go back to theaters for a foreign language drama thriller. It follows Anne, a brilliant lawyer who lives with her husband Pierre and their daughters, and gradually engages in a passionate relationship with Theo, Pierre's son from a previous marriage, putting her career and her family life in danger. This is called Last Summer.
Je sais plus qui croire.
Ne me touche pas. Ton fils est un monstre. Mets-toi bien ça dans la tête. Il veut que tu me rejettes pour t'avoir pour lui tout seul.
On est une famille. On doit pouvoir se faire confiance.
Matt Weiner reviewed this one for us, and it works really well because Leah Drucker is in the role of Anne. Because the reason that this movie is so sort of fascinating and compelling is that she doesn't seem truly to recognize that there's anything wrong with what she's doing, which is not just that she's being unfaithful to her husband with her husband's son, but that he's a 17-year-old boy. So for all the rest of us, there are about 500,000 things morally wrong with what she's doing, but she just doesn't see it. And, you know, I think you can kind of draw parallels with May December, although this lacks the humor and even a little bit Tar, rarefied air there, but of a female lead who herself is not acknowledging that there can be anything wrong with what she's doing.
Yeah. And a shout out to Leah Drucker again, because for anyone that saw the Oscar-nominated movie Close from 2 years ago,
yeah,
God, so good. So not a surprise that she carries this film. And it is writer-director Catherine Breillat. Hope I pronounced that right. And yeah, Matt thought it was very, very impressive in how the writer-director approached the subject.
Yeah.
Let's put it that
The
way.
moral ambiguity that is on display is going to
Yes.
challenge a lot of people.
Yeah.
But the goal is maybe not what you think the goal is going to be in terms of the sort of artistic direction of the movie.
Yeah. So do check out Matt's review at madwolf.com. He liked it very much, and this is one to check out. It's in the theaters now, international film called Last Summer. Let's do another international film, this one from the Czech Republic. Looking for work as a violinist, Josef comes into the orbit of a rich young woman. She introduces him to a hedonistic existence free from religious intolerance. Joseph gets an incredible commission to write an opera for the San Carlo. It's The Bohemian.
Wolfgang, basta. Non buttarti sul Signor Mislivecek in questo modo.
Christy Robb reviewed this one for us, and it's gorgeous to look at. The costumes are amazing. The performances are quite good. It sounds good. But it does expect you to have more of a grasp of the history of this opera than you might have.
And the composer.
And it doesn't really fill in any of the blanks for you, which makes it feel a little too loosely constructed to be of interest.
I think the only thing the most mainstream audiences will be able to grab is when a young protege comes into the picture, and that's Mozart.
Right.
Okay, we all know him.
Right.
Other than that, yeah, it's going to be a grasp for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's beautiful, and it sounds good, but I think that it might be trying for a lot of people.
Yes, and that is, that's on VOD now.
Yes.
And you can check out Christie's full review at madwolf.com called The Bohemian. And also on Prime Video, a thriller this week. A young woman wakes up in a police interrogation room with no memory of the night prior. However, there's a tiger in the bathroom. No, that's something else. However, something does not seem quite right in this police station. It's called Detained.
I don't know what you were thinking.
Can you tell me what's going on? Who are you?
Wasted enough time.
What are you saying?
You know.
I don't know who you think I am.
She put a valiant effort in, though.
You know where we're going with this, right? I don't like to work bloody, but guess what? Make an exception for her. Don't push me.
You let me go. And nobody gets hurt.
I must look stupid to you or something, huh? I promise you, I'm gonna get what I'm after. We can do this all day.
Maybe there should have been a tiger in the bathroom, because the Schlocketeer Daniel Baldwin reviewed this for us, and whoo boy, he was not impressed.
No, and it's too bad because it has top to bottom a very impressive cast, but they just can't do a single thing with them.
Yeah, it's led by Abby Cornish as the woman who wakes up with no memory. The co-writer and director is Felipe Mucci, but Daniel thought it just covered all this terrain that we've seen a million times before, and the whole running time, you're expecting it to give it some sort of unique angle, something new, and it never does.
No, not ever.
Never does. So,
Snooze fest.
yeah. What did he call it? Oh,
The Snoozual Suspects.
The Snoozual Suspects. And I love a good title.
You do.
So I tip my hat to you, Schlocketeer. That was well played. So yes, a disappointment there as well. It's on Prime Video now, called Detained. And speaking of Mr. Schlocketeer,
let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Lobby time to check in with Daniel Baldwin, a.k.a. the Schlocketeer, for the latest studio notes. What's going on this week?
Well, the big one, and the one that a lot of people might have missed, is that another strike crisis has been averted.
Oh.
Yeah. Basically this year, all the different factions of the crew had their contracts up for renewal, and it got in just under the wire on the deadline, so no 2024 strikes.
Well, that's good.
Moving on to film news. Don't have a lot for you this week, but I do have a few. First up, Lionsgate has set an August 23rd theatrical release for their comedic mystery Greedy People. And then Kevin Smith has a new coming-of-age comedy called The 4:30 Movie that will open in theaters on September 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Lionsgate's announced a September 20th theatrical release for their horror movie Bagman, which is the latest from the filmmaker who did The Girl with All the Gifts.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
And then Sony is releasing Jason Reitman's biographical dramedy Saturday Night in theaters on October 11th, and that's the movie that centers around the night of the very first broadcast of Saturday Night Live. So everything leading up to the broadcast, and I'm sure the broadcast itself.
Okay, cool.
And then lastly, Universal and Focus Features have set a March 14th theatrical release for their spy thriller Black Bag, which stars Michael Fassbender, Cate Blanchett, Naomi Harris, and Pierce Brosnan, and is directed by Steven Soderbergh.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I'm in.
Classy.
Yeah. Good stuff there. All right, kind of quiet this week, but you can always keep up on the latest by following Daniel on the socials at The Schlocketeer. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay, looking ahead to next week, we've got Cate Blanchett leading a star-studded cast in Borderlands.
Also, Cuckoo, which I could not be more excited about.
Looking forward to that one. Also, Blake Lively in It Ends With Us.
The Instigators.
Crossing.
Sugarcane.
Girl, You Know It's True. Is this Milli Vanilli?
It is.
Oh,
it's a biopic.
Get out of here.
It's true.
All right.
Girl, You Know It. Also, The Beautiful Summer.
And one called Ganymede. Don't know what that's about, but we'll find out. But that's next week. What do you think about this week? Did you love Trap? Harold and the Purple Crayon, Sing Sing. Well, if you did, we love to talk about it. It's always good to keep the conversation going. You can find us easily. We are Mad Wolf Columbus on Instagram. We're Mad Wolf Columbus on Facebook and Threads. So we always love to hear from you. And as we've been saying, all the written reviews you can find on the main website at madwolf.com, where you can also find our other podcast, Horror Movie Only. Brand new episode just out where we talk about our favorite descents into madness in horror film. So that's a good one. A lot of things to check out. And keep in touch if you can. And until next week, be well. He is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Screening Room Podcast.
See ya.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.
There is a tiger in the bathroom!